These are the best books of 2024 according to around 20 incredible booktubers. Let's get into it.
My favorite book of 2024 has got to be Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. Okay, you need to listen closely. Brandon Sanderson is currently casting a spell on people. These Cosmere books, they're spells. All these words, they're currently messing with your mind. These are just very addictive spells that are trying to sell your soul to whatever demon he's made a deal with to write such amazing books. Don't trust the people. Don't trust the reviewers. They are being mind controlled by the books. It's all part of the spells. Don't trust it. They're fake. Oh man, they found me.
Favorite book of the year. Johan! That hands down has to be The Count of Monte Cristo. Johan, thank you so much for being a friend. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. Single-handedly the greatest story of revenge ever written. Edmond Dantes has the most promising and bright future. Everything is ahead of him until he's betrayed by those that he trusts. He's charged guilty of a crime that he did not commit, thrown in jail for 14 years, gets out, becomes filthy stinking rich, and then proceeds to take revenge over the course of 20 years on everyone who did him wrong. Holy freaking crap. Single-handedly the greatest book I have ever read in my entire life. Hands down, no questions asked. If you've not read this book yet, you absolutely need to. I urge you. Johan, once again, thank you for asking me to be a part of this. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Johan, for having us on. I'm Richard from Tudor Ramble.
I'm awesome from Tudor Ramble. Thanks, Johan.
And my favorite book of this year was Lonesome Dove. And the reason I loved it is I have not met better characters, better dialogue written of any book I've ever read. So this is not only my favorite book of the year, it is my favorite book I've ever read, period.
Holy crap.
Larry McMurtry is a American classic writer. We will be studying this book for generations.
My favorite book of the year was The Lions of El Rasan by Guy Gabriel Kay. I did not read Lonesome Dove this year, so maybe if I finish it before the end of the year, it'll be my favorite. But Lions of El Rasan, 5 stars, floored me. It has the most genius way to write an ending to a book, I think, of any book I've read. It's not my favorite book ever, but the ending floored me. It has these dynamic characters that just have a mute this, Johan, a dick measuring contest. And it's just the grandest of dick measuring contests. And it leads into this very thoughtful, thought-provoking book in a historical fiction setting of medieval Spain. And it immerses you, feels great, and you'll get super attached. And the last 2 chapters of the book, including the epilogue, might be some of the best chapters I've ever read. I love it. And Johan, thanks for having us on to gush about our favorite reads of the year.
Thanks again.
Hi, my name is Wera from the channel Wera because I couldn't think of a cool name like Library of a Viking. So far this year, I've read 65 books, but there was only one that rose to being a full 5 stars for me. And it was The Wisdom of Crowds by King of My Heart, Body and Soul, Joe Abercrombie. It dives really deep into court intrigue and the hypocrisy of power with its main cast of characters, but it also explores the central fallacy of all revolutions, that sometimes the better group, or ideology, isn't really that much better. Overall, it's gripping, brutal, and it kept me begging for more. Especially from Orso. Thanks for the invitation, Johan.
We're Kristen and Mads, and we do a lot of fantasy and sci-fi. I'm Kristen, and my favorite of the year was Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong. This is a standalone fantasy that has the coolest magic system. I couldn't turn pages fast enough. I love the ending. The message is so powerful, and there's hidden nuggets inside of it that you'll never be able to stop thinking about.
And I'm Maddie, and I'm cheating, and I chose an entire trilogy because I can't pick just one. This is the Live Ship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb. Technically, this is the second trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings, but I'm going to commit sacrilege and say I think you can just read this as a standalone. It's self-contained, it's magical, has incredible character work, and I feel like if you loved Pirates of the Caribbean, you will love this.
Now, what is my favorite book of the year? Now, before I share my pick, I just want to say a huge thank you to all these amazing booktubers that were willing to participate in this video and made this collab possible. I truly appreciate you all. And please, everyone, go to the description and subscribe to each and every one of them. These are all amazing channels, and I'm so excited and honored they're on my channel, so thank you again. But my favorite read of the year, and I had to go back and forth because it was incredibly close between 2 books, but I ended up choosing Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Yes, a sci-fi book, and book 2, which I'll share in a later video, is actually also a sci-fi book. I mean, who am I becoming? But yeah, I've already made a full spoiler-free video, which I'll put up here if you want to know my full thoughts, but man, This book is just a masterpiece. And you can read it as a standalone, and I truly believe that most of you, even if you hate sci-fi, will end up loving this novel because it's written like a short story collection that have a lot of links between them. That's all I'll say. But yeah, I absolutely love Hyperion. But another book that has also blown my mind this year is from today's sponsor, The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding Civilization from Hungry Minds. This book is incredible. So what is this book? So the book, The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding a Civilization, is the book of incredible inventions and discoveries. This book is a captivating illustrated encyclopedia offering a fascinating journey through the most significant human inventions, appealing to both adults and children. And it's not just a book, I mean, it's a fun and engaging way to explore history, making it perfect for collectors, friends, parents, colleagues, and anyone with a curious mind like me that is eager to delve into the wonders of human innovation. This is genuinely the perfect Christmas gift, and this book has over 400 pages with the most amazing inventions of humankind, with 180 topics divided into 22 chapters, filled with unique handmade illustrations printed on high quality matte art paper, and is wrapped around a stunning laminated cover. Now this project collected more than $3.2 million on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and became one of the top projects on the site, and has had more than 50 professionals involved in creating this book. This book is absolutely beautiful, and you can buy it and get a discount using my code Viking10. Now, I'll leave a link in the description down below. Thank you so much to Hungry Minds for sponsoring this video. Now, I wonder what Funfantasybooks' favorite book of the year is.
Hi, I'm Funfantasybooks. Thank you so much, Johan, for having me here on your channel. Out of the 59 books that I've read this year so far, my favorite has been a sci-fi standalone that absolutely blew my mind. Addictive, it was smart, and it got me on edge, absolutely hooked, and that is Recursion by Blake Crouch. This author, it has this incredible ability to take you and emotionally kidnap you for pages and pages. It's a story about the power of memories and how they have a key role in your personality, and what would happen if one day people would have this sickness that some of them will believe things that never happened, and how that affects you. It's a book that obsessed me. 8 months has passed since I've read it. I still find myself thinking about it. Every page, the stakes are higher. I needed a break after these because it was absolutely outstanding. Perfect for a reading slump. I hope if you love it, you can come back and let me know.
Hey, what's happening? My name is D. My channel name is Don't Fret Read Books, and Viking asked me to let y'all know what my top book of 2024 is. I was in the last video. I've read a lot of books that I wasn't super crazy about since then, but I really enjoyed Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chapeko. This book is full of dope action. The main character, Remy's arc, really hits close to home for me personally. There's monsters and vampires and romance and mystery. I mean, what more could you want? Now, fair warning, there's a little bit of spice in this book. I'm not a big fan of spice myself, but if you really don't like it, maybe steer clear of this book. But if you like Castlevania on Netflix, this book is heavily inspired by that show. I really enjoy it, and I think it's worth a read. So thank you again to Johan for having me as part of this video. Y'all have a good one.
Hi, Johan. Thank you so much for inviting me to your annual video. And of course, just like always, you asked me about what is my favorite book of the year. Now, this could still change. After all, the year is not over yet, but if nothing changed, then my pick for the book of the year will be Kingdoms of Death by Christopher Ruggio. This is the 4th book in the Sun Eater series, and I thought Demon in White could not be topped. Well, this one is at least on par with Demon in White. It is one of the darkest books that I have ever read. It reminded me of reading Berserk by Kentaro Miura for the first time, and I have nothing but praises for the Kingdoms of Death. Amazing stuff, and I consider this to be, at the very least, the runner-up of the year 2024.
Hi, I'm Willow, and I talk books at Willow Talks Books. And my favorite book of 2024 is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. This is a sharp and powerful work of dark academia fantasy fiction. It's a novel that explores and deconstructs the evils of colonialism and capitalism. It has rich and dynamic world building, a brilliant magic system, a very compelling protagonist. If you're a fan of fantasy and dark academia, this book will give you everything you want, and the sheer power of its political allegory is honestly mesmerizing. I cannot say enough good things about Blood Over Bright Haven.
All right, Libraryofaviking, I'm going to do my best to pick my favorite read of 2024, but I have not read Wind and Truth yet, so this could change. But at this point, my favorite has to be City of Thieves by David Benioff. I read it on ebook, so I'm going to throw up the cover right here. There you go. And look, this is a name we probably all recognize from the Game of Thrones series, but this is his novel, and it is absolutely stunning. It tells the story kind of from his own family lineage of two young men that meet in prison during the Great War, World War I in Russia, and they are tasked by this colonel to find him some fresh eggs for his daughter's wedding cake. This is not an easy thing to find at this time in Russia. And what follows is a journey of these two young men and every bit of the human experience as they go on this quest. Brotherhood, loyalty, love, humor, the pits of depravity that humans can fall to. It is all examined and it is all just unbelievably amazing. And the compression, it's not a long book, but it just packs so much into it. And an ending that gets some tissues ready. That's all I'm going to say. So far, City of Thieves is my read of the year.
Hello Viking Horde, I'm Nick with Nick Reads Fantasy, and I've been reading a lot of hidden gems lately. Books you may not see reviewed very often on BookTube, and my favorite read of 2024 by far was one of these hidden gems. It was The Wizard Knight by Gene Wolfe, and this book is special because even though grimdark fantasy has been dominating the genre for the past decade, people are looking for other types of books, and I think this book can lead the charge. It's the opposite of grimdark. It's noble, bright fantasy, and it's noble, bright fantasy at its best. When I finished this book, I literally just sat there stewing in my emotions for like an hour. And when I finally did decide to move on to the next read, I just decided to reread it again. So I hope y'all look into it, and thanks for having me on the channel.
Hey, what's up people? My name is Dezmond Zee, if this is the first time that you've ever seen me. And my favorite book of the year has to be Sweetness in the Skin. This book is about a young girl who decides to change her life when every adult around her fails her, disappoints her, lets her down in some way. She has a mother who doesn't actually love her. She has teachers who want to see her fail instead of seeing her succeed. An aunt who leaves, and she just wants a better life. And she's going to do any and everything to make sure that happens. And this is my favorite kind of story. Someone starting over and taking control of their own journey. And as cliche as that sounds, and also family drama. I love a book with good family drama in it. And I recommend this book to everybody.
My book of the year so far is A Brightness Long Ago by Guy Gavriel Kay. Guy Gavriel Kay is one of those authors that I didn't realize I needed so much in my life, and I just love everything that he does. He is one of my favorite fantasy authors. He writes mostly standalones. He's considered historical fiction with a quarter turn to the fantastical because he bases his worlds, his secondary worlds, these are different worlds, there are two moons, on different parts of Earth's past, time and places that he chooses that are very interesting. In the case of A Brightness Long Ago, we're looking at Renaissance Italy with rival city-states and rival mercenary companies in this big sprawling tale that's told in a very personal and intimate way with a very strong narrative voice by Guy Gavriel Kay. If you haven't read Kay, I think this is a great entry point. And if you haven't read Kay, you need to read Kay. A Brightness Long Ago. So far, my best book of the year, 2024.
Hello, Johan and the rest of the Viking Horde. I hope you're all doing super well today. Thank you for having me on. My name is Dylan from the channel Spaced Out Reads, formerly Spaced Out Wizard. And when Johan reached out to me for this video, I instantly knew which book I had to talk to you guys about. Because it's a book so good, I ended up reading it twice this year. And that book is The Empire of the Damned by J. Kristoff. This is the second book in his Empire of the Vampire trilogy, and I could and have spent hours raving about this book. So all I'll say about it now is it is a dark, gritty fantasy story that will have you both laughing and crying at the same time. If you want delicious descriptive prose and the best dialogue in fantasy, if you want evil vampires and epic world building, and some of the best characters you'll ever read, you have to check out this series. Thank you, Johan, for having me, and have a great day, Viking Horde.
Hello, Johan. Thank you for asking me to share with you my favorite book of the year, and it is going to be, surprisingly, a non-fiction book, The Dawn of Everything, a new history of humanity by David Graeber and David Wengrow. This is a book that has altered my view of the early history of humanity and has really shaken me up in a very good way, in the sense that a lot of assumptions that I had about our past, I have had challenged. And so this is a book that really has changed the way I see things.
If you want to learn more about the early history of humanity, the diversity of cultures and peoples that existed, and a more complicated narrative about how we got to where we are now, I cannot recommend The Dawn of Everything highly enough.
Hi, I'm Daphne. Thank you, Johan, for inviting me to do this collab and tell everybody my favorite book of 2024. I mainly read romances, but read other genres as well. Some quick shout outs go to Heartless by Elsie Silvers, which is a really fun cowboy romance that is quite steamy. I also loved reading 7 Days in June by T.O. Williams. This is a more tragic love story and just so heartbreaking. I had a really fun time annotating the uncensored picture of Dorian Gray. There are some really thought-provoking quotes in here that I loved, but my favorite book of the year so far is Annibot by Sierra Greer. This is a sci-fi that I found to be quite feminist, following our robot friend Annie, who is being used as a sex toy by her owner, and you see the microaggressions she has to endure. I found this to be so agonizing that I had to binge it as fast as I could so I could see if Annie was going to be all right by the end. I loved it, and I hope everyone that picks it up loves it as much as I did.
Hi there, it's Olivia from Library Unbounded. I've been kindly asked by Johan to share my favorite read of the year, and I really wanted to come here and talk about a new, fun, exciting book. But instead, after looking through everything I read in 2024 thus far, I'm here to recommend you a book that you've probably been asked to read in high school, and you probably hated it back then. So the best book that I read in 2024 was The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Hands down. This is a standalone post-apocalyptic sci-fi with more fi than sci by one of the best authors of all time who really doesn't like comas, just like the rest of us. The book has an eerie setting, tons of tension, a heartbreaking plot, which is also strangely hopeful, many impactful moments, and all of it is served in the most beautiful writing style that somehow isn't flowery. If poetry could be written in prose, this is what it would look like. The book is fantastic. It will make you think and like it. So read it, you plebeians. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this lovely video, Johan. Happy holidays to everyone, and may you encounter many beautiful stories.
Hi, I'm Jed Herne, author of Kingdom of Dragons, and my favorite book from 2024 was Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio. Really, I could have picked any book in the Sun Eater series. I've read all 6 books that are out in this series right now, and I'm eagerly awaiting for the final book to come. But I singled this book out because I feel like it really encapsulates the 2 things that I love the most about this series. And the 2 things I really love about this series, which I think, again, are just shown so brilliantly in this book, is, number 1, the sense of scope. We get to see what humanity looks like tens of thousands of years beyond our current present. And I really love in this book how he gets to meet the emperor of, humanity 40,000 years in the future or whatever it is. And you get to see all the ways in which the emperor's status or position or the kind of office that's created around them has evolved over, this huge span of time. What I love even more about the series is that second aspect, which is the sense of voice, or I guess the perspective that the entire series is filtered through. So I'm really excited to see where the final book in this series goes. And if you haven't read the Sun Eater series, I would highly recommend picking it up.
Hi everyone, my name is Zoranne and I create content on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And I just want to say thank you to Libraryofaviking for including me in this year's Book of the Year roundup with all of his favorite creators. 2024 was a bit of a weird reading year for me. I didn't feel like I was having that much fun reading the books that I have read. Like, there was a lot of books that I read that were good, but there were very few that stood out to me as great or excellent. And some of the most fun I had reading was actually rereading books. So it was really hard to pick a favorite book of the year. I didn't want to pick a book that I had reread, but there was a book that I read earlier this year that felt like coming home. And this book should be no surprise if you're a fan of Libraryofaviking. And that book is Of War and Ruin by Ryan Cahill, which is book 3 in the Bound and the Broken series. This is shaping up to be one of my favorite series of all time. It is fast-paced, it is epic, it is everything I love about fantasy. Of War and Ruin just had me so immersed from start to end. I look forward to every character's chapters, especially Dane's chapters. If you are as deep into the series as I am, I'm eagerly anticipating the 4th book of Empires in Dust coming early 2025, and I will scream about this series until the end of time. It's my mission to make it everyone's problem and to get people to read this series because I will never ever shut up about it.
Hello everyone, I'm Brynn Green, and boy, do I have a book for you. My favorite book that I read this year is by far The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Honestly, just the way that it deals with like grief, love, friendships, and honestly like even self-discovery is just like, it's so special to me. But let's not get ahead of ourselves though. I have to tell you guys what this book is about. Basically, you're following Clementine, and right now Clementine is dealing with the grief and the loss of losing her aunt. She has to go to her aunt's apartment and she has to go clean it out because obviously her aunt's not here anymore. The crazy thing about her aunt's apartment is that basically like when you walk in, you could either be 7 years in the future or 7 years in the past. I just love Ashley Poston's writing. I feel like if you're looking for a book with like heavy hitting quotes that'll honestly make you shed a tear, or a lot of tears if you're like me, this is the book for you. Everybody, please go read this book like it's your last dying breath, okay? That's all I want.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Koan, and I was asked what my favorite read of 2024 is. That is a very easy answer, because my favorite read of the year has to be The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I wasn't really into historical fiction. I'd read a little stuff as a kid for kids' books, but no adult historical fiction. I picked up Pillars of the Earth off of some recommendations from some booktubers, and I absolutely loved it. I was so engrossed in this book. I read it so fast. I was so impressed by how he takes the concept of just building a cathedral and makes it so exciting and so interesting, and I was so connected with the characters, and there was a character death that hit me as hard as the character deaths in the Song of Ice and Fire series. And so I just absolutely loved this book, and I loved it so much I picked up the sequels, World Without End and A Column of Fire, and guess what? They're amazing as well. And so I'm a new huge fan of Ken Follett and the book Pillars of the Earth. Thank you so much for having me be a part of your video.
What's up, Johan? This is Darko, Kindles and Kicks. Thanks for once again inviting me to talk about my favorite read of 2024, which is most definitely, hands down, Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. This book not only gave me a vivid picture of what my ancestors endured in this nation, but it also inspired me to be a better human being by doing more to recognize, appreciate, and honor the sacrifices these people made. Because had it not been for those sacrifices, who knows where someone who looks like me would be today. So thank you to my ancestors. Thank you to Octavia E. Butler for inspiring me to just be a better person. And anyone else who reads this, guarantee you will also be a better person.
What's up, everybody? This is Jake from Nerd Level Rising. Thank you, Johan, for inviting me to collaborate on this. This is awesome. My favorite read of the year has been Kingdoms of Death, Book 4 in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. Now, to be fair, you catch me on a different day, I might say a different Sun Eater book is my favorite of the series, but this one is still standing out to me because as a huge fan of Berserk, it was so much fun to pick out all the references in this book that was heavily inspired by Berserk. Some subtle, some not so subtle, but it was so much fun. It was amazing. What a wonderful ride the Sun Eater series has been. If you haven't started it yet, go check it out. It's incredible. But Kingdoms of Death so far has been my most enjoyable, which is a weird thing to say for this book, read of the year.
Hey folks, my name is Robin, and you can find me over at Only the Best Fantasy Novels. Of the 200 books I've read this year, my favorite is easily the standalone fantasy novel The West Passage by Jared Petricek. It's a wildly imaginative, Gormenghast-inspired tale of the return of an ancient evil to confront a degenerated society. It's absolutely freaky, strange, and completely unforgettable, which is why it's my book of the year. And it's packed with just amazing interior art. The cover art is a good example. It's one of those rare cases where the cover art actually depicts something from the book. And that's it. Thank you, Johan, once again for having me on.
What's up, book beasties? It's me, Triple B, your friendly neighborhood bearded book beast. Thank you to Johan at Libraryofaviking for inviting me to this collab. I read a lot of good books this year, but I could not pick any other one than my favorite book of the year by my favorite author from my favorite series, and that was Wisdom of Crowds. This book was fantastic, just an awesome way to wrap up the series, and I love First Law. Character work is amazing, the humor, the grim darkness, characters you love to hate, characters you hate to love but you do anyway. It is a blast, and this was a fantastic way to wrap it up. And if you know, you know. So, how's the leg? Happy holidays, everybody. Take care.
Hey Johan, the best book I read in 2024 is actually a reread for me. It is Legend by David Gemmell. This is a fantastic book. It's only 400 pages. It is the start of the Draenei saga, but you can just read this standalone. It's about an old warrior, the legend of the title, and him and an army defending a fortress against ridiculous, insurmountable odds. The characters are just truly heroic. This is a book that every fantasy reader should read. And if you love it, there's a whole bunch more you can read.
Hey there, it's Olivia Zoranne here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and I'm here to tell you one of the best sci-fi books that I've read in 2024. And for me, that would be The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. It was my first time reading this novel, and it's about a man who is stuck in a time loop, but it's historical because it's set in the past, pre-World War II. And he lives his life up until a certain point, and he dies in various ways, and whenever he dies he goes back to when he is born, but every time he does that he has memory of his past life. Of course there are other people who are time loopers as well, and their time loops can intersect with each other to make a timeline or a time chain through time, when a message comes back from the future that the world is ending, and he is going to do his best in the time that he is available to him to find out what is happening, who is causing it, and how to stop it. I found this to be incredibly clever, incredibly well plotted, and just an insightful and incredibly smart novel. Claire North does not shy away from some of the moral questions, like what would you do if you knew that someone was going to be bad in the future? Would you try and harm them in the past so that you could save other people's future? She faces question about whether tampering with time is something that you should or shouldn't do, but also there's a plot with a villain at the core of it who doesn't feel overly villainous but feels very realistic and close to life. There's a bit of a frenemies situation going on between the villain and the person who's trying to solve the time crime that is happening, and it's a very insightful look at what time travel as well as time loops can mean for different people. I found it to be just so well plotted and masterful, and it's made me want to go back and read many more of Claire North's novels that I've never taken the time to really look at closely.
Oh, you're still here and you want more? Well, the good news is that I have a Viking book club on my Patreon. If you join my Patreon, then you get access to an exclusive book club where every single month we read one book together, and the book can be put forward by you. If you join tier 3 or 4, then you can put a book forward, and then I randomly choose a book from the pot that we end up reading together, and throughout the month we discuss the book on the Patreon chats. And then we also have Zoom hangouts, which honestly are some of my favorite times of the month. This month we're reading this book, and next month we're gonna be reading this book. Also, since I launched my Patreon, I basically spent my money back into the channel on video editing. I've had more than 40 videos professionally edited, so if you want to support what I do here and also help me upload more consistently, then I'll leave a link in the description down below.